Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Now, how good are your communication and listening skills? Hey, this is Kari Watt, the creator of the CARIA show and a digital strategist with nearly 2 decades of experience in marketing and communications. Now, it's my mission to help you achieve and exceed your marketing goals with a tailored digital strategy for your business. Well done for listening to this podcast, and it's great to have you here with me
on the CARIA podcast.
How you think about yourself and others relates to communication influences. Now, we all share a fundamental drive to communicate with each other, whether it's online or face-to-face. You share meaning in what you say to others and how you say it. Now, when you aren't able to communicate effectively, it can bring a series of misunderstanding and frustration. We've all been there, right? Where you're pulling out your hair. Through miscommunication, it can also mean you don't have a sense of self-awareness or tolerance to be able to make the other person understand you. Now, a communication fail in my book is when you get caught up in technical jargon where it makes sense to you, but the other person doesn't really understand. And this happens all the time when I'm talking technical stuff to my clients, or I talk about data, digital marketing and data, and I get really passionate about it. And then I realize they haven't got a clue what I'm talking about. So I have to bring it back and I have to change my communication style to meet their requirements or at their level. Or, they might be smarter than me and I have to ask them to explain. So, it works both ways. Instead of repeating what I just said and getting frustrated, I use plain English. Now, miscommunication is often seen negatively by employers. If you're determined to feel superior to the other person, you will be seen as difficult by employers, right? And this may mean you lose respect and possibly even your job. Did you know that communication makes a huge impact on business productivity and efficiency? Effective communication at work means that customers will enjoy a good relationship with you and the business for the simple reason that their complaints or their concerns are dealt with quickly and effectively. It also means you understand your role and responsibilities, and the tasks that have deadlines are understood and easily met. Plus, your motivation naturally improves because your manager actually listens to you and responds to your suggestions. But communication alone isn't the only factor. There are work style differences which can cause a lot of friction. If it's not quickly identified, small quirks can lead to large assumptions that drive wedges between teams. And I've seen this in different industries. I've seen this, when you've got your IT team, with the communications team and then the SLT team, and they're all not really understanding each other, or they understand what they're talking about, but they're not really communicating it clearly enough. According to Holmes, who is the voice of global PR industry, in their report, the cost of poor communication has hit an overwhelming $37 billion. Can you believe that? They surveyed 400 companies that have over 100,000 plus employees in the US and the UK. They've estimated that communication barriers in the workplace cost the average organization $62.4 million per year in lost productivity. On the flip side, this same report found that companies with leaders who possess effective communication skills produced a 47% higher return over a 5-year period. Now, do you see now why effective communication is key to team and organizational success?
On the CARIA podcast.
Now, here's a quote by Albert Einstein that I absolutely live by. If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. I always remind myself of that quote when I'm writing for websites or when I'm talking to my customers. Now, how do you prefer to communicate? Do you like to talk, or are you a writer? Perhaps you find it easier to text, chat, or Skype. Do you find it a challenge or confrontational to speak in front of a group? Oh gosh, I do, especially if I know them. If I don't know them, I'm sweet. At times, communicating can be a positive challenge, but for many, it can be discouraging. According to Carlin Flora's article in Psychology Today, it depends on your confidence levels and on your meta-perceptions. That is how you see yourself, right? Communication helps us understand people through their words, their tone of voice, and non-verbal gestures. Even their writing style can provide clues about who they are or what their values and priorities may be. Plus, everything you do in your career involves communication. How well you learn is another communication influence. You know, as a child, you learn how to speak, right? But as you get older, you learn how to read and write. By using effort, you improve on those skills. In conversations, you answer questions and express your opinions. Now, speaking and writing are reflections of how you think and experience life. Part of this includes your level of experience on how to actively listen to others, read or produce documents, and understand different writing styles. When you start a new job, you have to study the way the business does things, and this may include how they write internal and external communications, such as emails. Communication represents you and your employer. Think about that for a moment. You want to make a good first impression, whether it's with friends, family. In your career, you need to make a good impression with clients and your employer. In return, your clients and employer want you to convey a positive image because it can reflect on them. Now, in your career, you represent your company in everything you say and write on behalf of the business. Your professionalism and attention to detail reflects on you, and it can set you up for success. Now, these skills can be used for the rest of your life. Positive improvements in communication skills can have a positive impact on all of your relationships, and your ability to make a difference in the world. So what are your responsibilities as a communicator in your career? Now, whenever you speak or write in a business environment, you have a certain responsibility to your audience, your employer, and your profession. Your audience comes to you with an inherent set of expectations that you will and need to fulfill. Now, the specific expectations may change over time, given the context or the environment. There are two central ideas that remain. Always be prepared and be ethical. And when I say ethical, be really authentic.
On the CARIA Cares podcast.
Ethics refers to a set of principles or rules for correct conduct. Now, communicating ethically involves being respectful and trustworthy. Overall, practice treating your audience the way you want to be treated. Communication can move communities, influence cultures, and change history. It can also motivate people to take stand, consider an argument, or purchase a product. The degree to which you consider both the common good and fundamental principles that I've outlined when crafting your message, remember that your message will affect others. So I hope you enjoyed this week's podcast. Every week I'm going to do one from now on, but it will be on digital marketing. Please like this and give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comments below the one takeaway from this week, and reach out with any questions you have. Until next week, peace!
Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to AuscastNetwork.com for details.